My name is Samuel Kadima, and I'm a technical mentor at Moringa. I teach DevOps, and I'm also a software engineer. So I'm excited for this session today. I hope you guys are also excited and are looking forward to learn something from the session. So we can start the session. And in case you have a question as I'm continuing, you can raise your hand, and then I'll be able to give you a chance for you to speak. You can also use the chat box to ask the questions when you're having questions. Yeah, and then I'll be able to respond to them as well. So to start us off, what we are going to cover in this session is basically DevOps, and it will be good if we guys could know what DevOps is. So in our audience, is there anyone who has maybe heard about DevOps before, or maybe has some knowledge of what DevOps could be? Who would like to give it a try and let us know what they think DevOps is? Do we have anyone who would like to try that? Respond to what DevOps could be, or what you think it is? Yes, Rogers.
For me, DevOps people are involved in continuous integration and deployment. When we get codes from developers, then we have a framework from testers. So that person who integrates the code and the framework so that we have that continuous integration and deployment, who we call DevOps.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you for sharing, Rogers. So actually what you are saying is mostly true in terms of DevOps deals with bridging the gap between software development and IT operations. So what you are saying that there is a process that happens for you to be able to automate some steps so that software that has been developed by developers can get into production and also get to the users who can consume the software. That is true. So DevOps is just a collection of practices that bring in together software development and IT operations. And there are a lot of things that a lot of practices, not just maybe CI/CD. There are many things that add up to make DevOps. So we'll be looking into that. So Sasha, if you can go to the next slide. So DevOps is just a combination of cultural philosophies. So cultural philosophies, practices, and tools that increase an organization's ability to deliver applications and services at high velocity. So what DevOps focuses on is ensuring that you can be able to deploy software as quickly as possible so that the users of your application or your service or your product can be able to have to use the product and have a good experience. So with DevOps, it ensures that you can be able to, developers can easily create software, and as they do that, they can easily push their changes into production without maybe having to wait until they've developed the entire application so that they can go ahead and push it into production. So in the past, what used to happen is before DevOps, the reason now we are having DevOps and why DevOps is solving a problem is in the past we used to have development teams and IT operation teams separate. So what that meant is the development teams would work on developing software, and while they're doing that, they would do that until they've developed the complete features, and then once they've done that, they give it to the operations people. So the operation people, there are people who may not be aware of software development. So they may be people who want to maintain just dealing with servers to ensure that the applications or the code that they've been given is running in production. So while it's running in production, users of the application maybe end up experiencing some challenges on the software. And when they do that, that information is not getting to developers. So the developers are not getting the information directly. And also there is, because the two teams were separated. So software developers are excited about developing new features. So they always try to push on creating new features every time. And the IT operation teams try to make sure that the software in production is stable. So they didn't want to launch new features every time, because they knew every time we launch a new feature, there is a chance that the system the users may end up experiencing some errors. So this was bringing about a lot of conflict between software developers and people who are on the operation side, because all of them, the developers are excited about developing features. The people in operation want to maintain the system to ensure that there are no bugs or errors. They want users to have a good experience. So they were not releasing these features. But now with DevOps, so with DevOps, there are many things that came into place, which include cultural practices. So these are things like adopting agility and using tools that you can be able to use to be able to ensure that your software can be able to. So let's say when developers just create develop their code and they push it to a source repository, something like GitHub. So once they do that, there is a system that can run to ensure that this code is tested, and if there are any bugs in the code, these bugs fail in time before they get to the users. And when users try out and maybe there is anything, there is any challenge, this information can be highly visible for everyone within the organization. So that is what DevOps is. It's just a collection of practices that combines IT operations and software development. And the word DevOps is just a short form of development and operation. So we can go to the next slide. I hope I'm making sense. If I'm making sense, you can respond with a +1 on the chat. So this graphic that you're looking at here, so you're looking at the company on the left, and then what you can see here, the in between. So we have the company and you have customers. So in between company and customers, here is where now DevOps takes place, and the collection of practices, some of the things that are happening before this software gets into production when you implement DevOps is when developers in a company are working on a project and they push their code, the code is going to be built, is going to be tested, and all this has been automated. So once that has been done, it's going to be tested, it's going to be released. And then once it is released, the DevOps engineer has also set up systems to monitor the software in production. So this system enables the team to be able to not only monitor the consumption of resources, but also monitor the interactions of the software, of users of the software with the application, and also be able to respond to their demands as required. So we can move to the next slide. So, okay, so in case you are interested in joining our DevOps course or pursuing a career in DevOps, it will be good for you to have a background in one of the following items that are listed on the slide. So if you have a background in software engineering, web or Android development, networking, IT, computer science, cloud engineering, cloud development, system administration, or data engineering, you'll be able to pursue a course in DevOps engineering without any challenge. So you can move to the next slide. Okay, so now to the important part. Why is DevOps important? So DevOps, as I've said, it allows developers to build their software and push it into production in an iterative way. So if you are doing that, as opposed to when you are creating software until you've created the entire software so that you can take it to production. Within short time, with DevOps, within a short time, you can create a new feature and push that feature to production. So your software can get to production without you having to maybe create the entire application or add all features that you need for the application for you to put it into production. So this accelerates the time that you may need for your users to interact with your product. And another thing that DevOps implements is you can easily scale systems, because now with DevOps there are concepts like orchestration, and with the orchestration you can be able to we set up systems in the cloud. So when you set up systems in the cloud, let's say you have your application running and there is a high demand for your service. So when there is high demand for your service, and maybe the resources that you have set up that are being used at the moment are exhausted, new resources can be automatically spin up. So you can easily scale without having now to go again and manually do these things. So these things can be done automatically, and you can be able to give your users a good experience. So the other thing is you can be able to maintain stability and reliability. So with DevOps, we are able to set up pipelines that are going to ensure that your code is tested. So it fails first before it gets to the customer, to the user of your software, because you've set up a system to test your code in advance before your users can have the experience of the software. So this is an advantage, because you do not, without having such a system, the users will be the test subjects and they will have a bad experience on our software. For example, if it fails, and then they end up not using it or going to another service provider. So DevOps just ensures that you can be able to test your system, and by testing, you make it reliable and also make it stable, because by testing, by the time you push something into production, it's something that works and it's something that people can depend on, they can rely on. So the other thing is improve system meantime recovery. So since you're pushing features in small bits into production, you can be able, in case you're working on features and these features can be tested. So that means in case there is something that fails, it's not the entire application that has failed. So if there is something that has failed, it's very easy to, because you have system to monitor, and also since you are working with small bits of the application, it's very easy for you to identify where the system is failing and work on that small part within a short time. And since you are only pushing that part again, that will take a shorter time for that feature that was failing to recover, and then your users can continue having a good experience. So the other thing is improved collaboration between IT and operation. So now that everything is visible, the information about your application, everything has been set up, and both teams can actually interact and they can see what is going on. So so DevOps, that is a benefit of DevOps, another benefit of DevOps. So we can move to the next slide. So before that, maybe I think I saw a question here. So somebody asked, is DevOps suitable where waterfall is practiced? So I think we can hold that up to the end, and then you let me know if I've answered your question. So let us continue. So what do DevOps engineers do? So any person who has an idea, apart from I think it was Rogers. Do we have any other person who has an idea of what DevOps engineers could be doing? Yes, Sydney.
I think DevOps engineers they do quite a lot. First thing I'll actually mention is it's maintenance of infrastructure. These are services that are used maybe on applications, on websites, maybe servers. Basically, it's just they do itongoaji kazi ya mkono. Okay, they sorry, they do maintenance work. That is the first thing I can note about DevOps.
Okay, actually, what you're saying is true. So I think Ola Mihari says is responsible for DevOps engineers are responsible for the smooth going of for the smooth going for the smooth going for the it structure or for the infrastructure. They are responsible for the smooth going of the infrastructure. Sylvia Musagi says, from my experience, I do L1 and L2. What do you mean, Sylvia? I do L1 and L2 support on top of automation.
Hi, Samuel.
Hi.
L1 and L2 support is basically because we use Jira, so it's basically monitoring service desks, and then of course, if it's something database related or if it's not code related and I can handle, then I'm able to fix it. Now beyond L2, it's now L3, which is for the developer. Then I pass it to the developer.
Okay. So thank you for sharing. So we can move to the next slide. So what DevOps engineers do, they're able to create pipelines. So like someone said here, so you're able to automate the process when code is pushed. You're able to automate the process to make sure that the code is tested, and if it works correctly, the code can be pushed to production. The other thing that DevOps engineers do is infrastructure automation. So what this means is, for example, in the past, we used to have, let's say the people, we used to have several IT people who are working, maybe managing several servers. So, but with DevOps, you can be able to automate infrastructure by just creating, writing a script that is going to create the infrastructure for you. So that the concept is called infrastructure as code. So you can be able to do that, and just with one command, you can be able to make changes to the many servers that you have. So you have people, so DevOps, some of the DevOps engineers do that. And the other thing is configuration management, just ensuring that you have, you provision resources for your, let's say your system is working in the cloud, it needs a database, it needs networking and such things. It needs all resources that it needs. So you configure these resources. So some of the DevOps engineers do that. And then they also set up systems for continuous monitoring of applications. So when the system is in production, you want to ensure that you are monitoring it so that you can be able to solve issues in case they arise. So, and also make decisions on how to deploy the software, maybe in future, or on how, which resources to use. So you can move to the next slide. So the career pathways for DevOps engineers, what are these career pathways that you can have for DevOps engineers? So of course, the default one is a DevOps engineer. So the other one you can have is a release manager. So when software is being developed and taken into production, there's someone who is responsible to ensure that this software, to verify that the software is actually ready and it can be moved to production. And then you can have a DevOps cloud engineer who ensures that they use cloud resources to provide solutions for DevOps. Then we have a DevOps architect who architects the infrastructure for automating. And then we have a DevOps lead who is responsible for the entire process of automation. And then we have an automation expert who sets up the environments to ensure that the processes of the DevOps processes can take place. And then we also have SRE, which means site reliability engineer. So those are people who just implement DevOps in production. So we can move to the next slide. You can see Boniface Mwangi had responded to what DevOps engineers do. He said they collaborate with development teams to ensure that new features and updates are delivered quickly. That is true. So what are some of the potential companies for a DevOps engineer to work in? So some of the potential companies that we have in Kenya right now, we have companies like Safaricom, we have Microsoft, we have Google, we have Andela, and we have the banking sector. And we also have many companies, people who are working remotely for many companies, and other companies that probably have not listed here. So these are just some of the companies that many people know. So all of these companies, they hire DevOps engineers, but there are more opportunities for DevOps engineers in other companies and even outside Kenya. You can move to the next slide. Yes, somebody said Tracom. Yeah, I think that is another company. So now let us have a look at the DevOps engineering course that we offer at Moringa. And it's an 8-week part-time course that, yeah, so some of the prerequisites that we have for this course is that you must have fundamental knowledge in software development principles. Some of the principles are the things that I just mentioned on the first slide, on a slide before, not the first slide. There is a slide where I mentioned people who have a background in cloud engineering, cloud development, data science, people who have a background in IT, or maybe you have a degree in computer science, and such people. So those are people who have, who are, at least they've worked with a software, a language, or they've worked in networking, and they're able to work with servers. So the other prerequisite is you are required to complete. So for a specific course, so these are not prerequisites that are global for everyone. So for our specific course, you are required to complete a technical assessment test and score above 40% at the end of your application. So when you apply, you are going to be given a test that will just test your if you've some basic concepts, understanding of basic concepts in software development or computer science or IT or networking. Yeah. So all our classes are fully online at the moment. So you are required to have access to stable internet. So for you to be able to take part in the course, ensure that you have access to the stable internet. Yeah, and you have a computer as well. So you should be proficient in English, as the sessions are run in English. And you also will be expected to be a person who has set up time to attend classes. So if you know you can be available to spare some time to attend classes, then you'll be able to participate in the course. So the course content is just that we'll be interacting with is just about 30 hours of content per week. So that is something you can figure out if you can be able to integrate into your plan and see if it will work for you. So of course you should have a laptop. The laptop that would work for you is at least a computer that has you have 8 GB RAM, and space, it may be 500 GB or even less, or 256, still fine. But at least you should have 8 GB RAM on that computer, and it should be at least Core i5. Yeah. So the course, as I've said, it takes 8 weeks. So for the course details, and it's a part-time class, delivery is live and online. And the course normally happens from Monday to Friday from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. So the sessions are instructor-led, and you have self-directed sessions, project-based learning. You have 1 hour of live lectures, and you have full-time technical mentor support. So the cost for the course is 55,000 Kenya shillings. Yeah, so Dennis Mburu asked if we have evening classes. That is true. All classes are actually evening classes. They happen from 7. The sessions happen from 6 to 9 p.m. So in the evening, but the lectures happen from 7 to 8 p.m. So, and that is from Monday to Thursday, where we have the lectures. And so on Friday, you may be working on a project, probably. So you can move to the next slide.
I think we have questions from Tom and Leewell. Have you seen them?
Okay, let me see. So Tom says, what if you don't have the background? So if you do not have any background in software engineering or any tech-related discipline, so it will be hard for you to maybe go into this course directly. It is advisable that you maybe start somewhere and gain some basics. So you can join, we have other courses as well. So we have courses like software engineering that you can start with. And then once you have understood some basics, you can join the DevOps class. So we also have another question is, Lewell, did you say 30 hours? So these are just 30 hours that you need to set aside for you to read. So this is for you to interact with the content plus lecture. So this is something, the total amount of hours that you may need. So, and this you can set up, you can also set up some time during the weekend. So you can set up the hours, so like the 3 hours that we have per week, by the end of the week, you'll have consumed probably the sessions you will have covered maybe 15 hours, but you can set up maybe 2 more hours or 3 hours every day. So, and also use the weekend so that you can be able to cover the content. So you can go to the next slide.
Okay. I think we need to spend some more time here, Samuel.
Oh, okay. There are more questions.
Yeah, there's so many questions. You can just be addressing them before I
okay.
take them through the admissions process.
Oh, okay. So kindly explain on what basics are required. So the basics that I just talked about is maybe you have a degree. You should either have a degree in computer science. You should either have, instead, if you do not have a degree in computer science, you can have a networking background. You can have a data science background. You can have a cloud engineering, cloud development background. So those are the basics that I'm talking about. Or maybe if you're already an Android developer or a web developer, so you're already into tech. So you're a person who will be able to navigate. So those are the basics that I'm talking about, even including system administration. So if you have any background in such, you can be able to take the course without an issue. So in the course itself will not be, yes, Dennis Mburu.
Sorry. Mjibu kwanza, then I'll ask later.
Okay. So Timothy Werunga was asking, what are the prerequisites of the course, especially the programming bit? So the course, you are just expected to have a background in programming, but in the course itself, you are not programming. So if you have a background in either programming or networking, that is why we are giving you the options. So you can have either options, you'll still be able to understand the concepts. But if you do not have either, it will be a challenge. But you do not have to be a programmer for you to be able to take the course, because you will not be programming. So the other question, yes, Kevin.
Mine is to ask like the language that one is supposed to, or there is no specific language.
Yeah, there is no specific language that you are supposed to know for you to. If you have, if you have maybe you're comfortable in any language, you already know the programming principles. You can be able to understand. So there is no specific language. Have I answered you, Dennis? Was it Dennis?
No, you're answering someone else.
Oh, okay. You have another question, Dennis?
Yeah, my question was, the program from 6 to 9, how is it exactly? Because I usually arrive home around 6:30. Sijaelewa hapo place ya lecture ni time gani na gani. Like you 3 hours mnaipanga aje? Ndo pia mi nijipange.
So in those 3 hours, we normally have the lecture from 7 to 8. From 6 to 7, we normally have unblocking sessions. So people who have had issues, as maybe they are going through the content, or maybe there is a project that was being done and they experience some challenges, that is the time we used to unblock. So in case you're having a challenge that you just reach out, and then that is the time we have set for to handle such issues. After 8, it's a time that we can have one-on-ones. So in case you needed maybe some time with the technical mentor, you can have that chance at that time. But also, if you are not, you don't have one-on-ones at that time, you can be going through the content and asking questions during that time as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nimeelewa sasa, asante. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, admin Abdi, will it be enough if you don't have the degree background, but you have software engineering from Moringa? Yeah, of course. So if you have software engineering, even if you are self-taught, so long as you can be able, so because we are giving you a test at the beginning. So if you can be able to show us that you have a background in either of the fields, then you'll be able to pursue the course. So that is what we just look for, is just to ensure that you have the background, but it doesn't have to be a degree or anything. So you can be a person who came from high school and you are a developer already. So we'll just give you the tests. So, okay, so Mike says, in the technical assessment, what do we expect there? So it's just questions on the fields, just some basic questions. They're not hard questions, they're very simple questions that are going to help you guys to be able to help us just to know if you guys may be able to take the course comfortably. And if you are not able to take it comfortably, maybe from the what we get from the test, we'll also will also provide some information on what you can do before you can take the course again, or test and be enrolled in the session in the course. So I think so the questions are coming in still. So Boniface Maina says, do you offer? We don't. So we do not offer the discount. I think I've answered all questions. Is there any that I've left out? So I don't think I've left any question. Okay, so I think I can continue. So we can look at the course overview, what we cover here at Moringa. So basically what we cover in the course itself. So in the first week, we cover Linux administration. So here you just get to learn Linux basics. So you learn Linux basics. After you've learned Linux basics, you can learn things like how to Linux commands. You can learn more about the Linux operating system. You can learn about how networking works for Linux, the file system for Linux. So those are some of the things that you learn in the basics for Linux administration. And then week 2, we'll have an introduction to DevOps. And on this week, basically just we'll introduce you to DevOps, and then also introduce you to a tool called Jenkins, that will allow you to create the pipelines for your software to ensure that they can automatically, once you push code, it can automatically go into production. So we have practical, so our content has some practical exercises that have been embedded into it. So to ensure that as you are going through each week, you can be able to practice the things. On the third week, we have containerization and Docker. So here we just look at Docker, we look at containerization, we look at Docker, and we look at different things about Docker. So we'll be able to learn how to create images, you'll learn about volumes, how to put your to create containers, and we'll have applications, sample applications that you can put into containers. And then in the third week, we have we learn automating tests, and here we'll be looking at Docker Compose, and here we'll be looking at different things that are in Docker. On the first week, what you will have learned on the first week. So you'll have in the first week you learned about concepts separately, but now in the fourth week you combine things and create. You run everything from one file, and then after that we go to infrastructure as code. So infrastructure as code, that is where maybe we'll be looking at how a tool called Ansible that will be helping us to create code that can run on different servers the same way within minimal time, and while saving on maybe the cost of you would have used on hiring many developers to do that task. So we just look at how we can do that and automate it. So, and then we look at automation, configuration, and instrumentation. So we look further into how you can configure automation in week 6, and then in week 7 we look at Google Cloud. We look at Google Cloud, the wide picture of Google Cloud. We look at different services that are offered in Google Cloud. So we look at networking, we look at security, that is identity access management, and then we look at storage as well. Then in week 8 we look at orchestration, where we'll be looking at Kubernetes. So and how we can deploy our applications into the cloud in a scalable way, so that in case there is high demand for the resources, our application can easily scale. So what are the learning outcomes? So at the end of the program, you're expected to have understood DevOps principles and its benefits. You should be able to set up continuous. So CI/CD actually means continuous integration and continuous delivery. So you should be able to set up continuous integration and continuous delivery pipelines and apply the best practices and the applications. You should be able to deploy cloud-based software applications. You should be able to apply DevOps principles in business context. So I think we can move to the next slide. Yes. So this is just information on how you can apply. So you can be able to apply by visiting our website. So the website URL is on the chat, but it's on the slide, but I think it can be shared on the chat as well. So for those, so that the people in the meeting can be able to access it, it's just moringaschool.com. So if you type that on your browser, you can be able to access the site, and you can learn more about our program from the site, as well as you can register, and then we'll be happy to have you join us. So technical assessments. So during the application process, you'll after you've applied, the next thing you'll do is the technical assessment. And as I've said, it's not hard. It's just an easy test that will just test the basics. And with that, if you pass the test, you'll be able to join the program. In case you do not do so well, we'll advise you on what steps you can take so that you can do it maybe again, maybe after some time, and join our next cohort or something of the sort. So for the test, we'll only have the chance of doing it once. So you'll only do it with one attempt. And then once that is done, so once you've done the test, so admissions will look at it and they will respond to you. So you'll receive your communication via email or SMS. Yeah, and this will advise you on which steps you can take as well. You can move to the next slide. Okay, so when you're joining the course, once you have been confirmed as eligible to join the course, so you will be required to pay the fees upfront. So you will be required to make the upfront full payment of the fees, which is 55,000 Kenya shillings. So can move to the next slide. So the upcoming intakes that we are going to have. So the next class that we are having, that we are admitting people for, is the one on March 13th. Yeah. So yeah, so you can go to the website and apply. You can apply even now, but you'll be scheduled for the class. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so now just the time for questions. If you have questions, you can respond to them. You can start with Brian.
Hi, Samuel.
Hi.
Okay, so I have a bit of software engineering background.
Yeah.
And normally understand my task actually ends at Git push once I commit my code to GitLab or any other platform.
Yeah.
So maybe briefly you can take us through what happens on the pipeline up to where your code is deployed, probably on AWS or any other platform, and also some of the automation tools involved.
Okay. So in our second week, actually, that is what we are covering, what you are asking, the question you are asking. So we are using a tool called Jenkins. So Jenkins is a tool that we use to create pipelines and to set up the process, the steps that we require to ensure that our software can be able to, once we push to GitHub, everything else happens automatically and our code can be able to move into production. So I may not be able to share broadly on the subject, on how everything works, but maybe what I would advise you to do, once you apply, because we have content that has everything is explained well, and the support is there as well. So I'll be there to provide the support and also to maybe talk in depth, so that, because I don't think right now we have enough time, but I hope that answers your question, Brian.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you satisfied with the answer?
Not 100%, but as you mentioned, we might just have to enroll to find out.
So I've said the tool we are using is Jenkins. So Jenkins is the tool we are using, and we'll be so if you want to learn about maybe how we do it or how we can do it, so I think the best thing to do is just to apply for the course. Then once you have applied for the course, we'll be able to show you how to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me now go to the questions in the chat. So the intake, somebody asked when is the intake? So it's on 13 March. Then Mike Mugendi it's the technical test time. So is the technical test timed, Sasha?
Hello. Sorry. No, the technical test is not timed, but you only have a maximum of 1 attempt to do it. So you're required to attempt all the questions that are there. I think they're about 15, assessing you around like your programming skills, software development fundamentals, and the likes. Like if you understand those principles, just as Samuel has mentioned. Yeah, and then there's a pass score that, you know, once you've reached the threshold, you'll either be accepted into the program. If you fail the assessment test, you'll be advised on which other pathways you can explore at Moringa. Yeah, so I
Okay.
hope I've answered your question. It's not timed on the website per se.
Okay. Thank you, Sasha. So the other question is, do you have part-time training? So it's part-time, so the course is part-time. So Elijah, fully part-time. And so you're only expected to be present actually during the times when you're having sessions, but you can structure your own time to catch up with the content and to read. And even though it's part-time, you can still even reach out to the technical mentor during even the day. So you don't have just to reach out to the technical mentor during the, maybe from 6 to 9. If you are going through the content during the day, you can still reach out and get help. So the time is just set up there because we know most people may be working who join DevOps. So we just set a convenient time for where people will be available to help them, but we can help you even during the day. So that was a response. Is there a code for April or May, Sasha? We can't hear you.
The next intake is March 13th. The next available one will be sometime in June. Yeah, so it would be great if you have the time now, able to pay for the course to join the March 13th intake. Yeah, because the next one will be sometime in June. We'll communicate the dates. I hope I hope you're satisfied with the response, Kevin. Okay. I also want to address something that Boniface had raised earlier. So when we launched the course last year in November, like I mentioned, this is a new program that we introduced last year after we had feedback from the community that they wanted us to start offering a DevOps course. We offered a discount for the pilot class. So the first people to ever sign up to DevOps, they benefited from the discount offer in November, and we communicated that. So there was the original fee, which is 55,000 shillings, but we offered the special discount for the first cohort. So now we are only offering the DevOps course with the original fee, which is 55,000 Kenyan shillings. If at all we are going to offer a discount, we'll communicate with you guys. So we normally have very limited slots for that. So be sure to be on the lookout and run to apply and pay to secure a slot with the discount offers. Yeah. Okay, so we are almost coming to the end of our session. I don't want to lock anyone out. Please, if you have any questions, just feel free to unmute yourself, ask Samuel or myself. We will address it before we end. Anyone with a burning question around the program, around DevOps engineering as a whole, as a career, feel free to ask.
I have a question. For something like the software engineering course,
Do we accept payments and installments?
Oh, okay. There are two people speaking. So sorry, Hillary, please go first, and then the next person.
My question is, do you accept payments in installments or just a one-time?
Okay, so you between now and the class start date, you need to make sure you've completed the fee. Yeah, so normally, like when we announce an intake date, you can apply. If you get accepted, you get your admissions email telling you that you've been accepted to the program. You can secure your slot, let's say with like 20K, but make sure you've completed the fee before the class start date. Yeah, so that you can join the rest and just start learning. So we don't have installment plans throughout the course because it's very short, it's 8 weeks. So between now and March the 13th, you need to make sure you have completed the fee. There's someone else who was asking Samuel a question. Please go ahead. Sorry for that. Mike Mugendi is asking, Samuel, please jump in. He's asking, like software engineering, do you have internships after?
Okay, so internships, I don't think we offer internships for DevOps yet, but that is something that can be implemented. So something we can push forward and see if it can be implemented.